The classes of protein tertiary structure. In the previous lecture, we learned about the fibrous proteins, in which we learned about the collagens. In this class, we will continue discussing the collagens. We will learn about its biosynthesis and its degradation briefly, and we will also learn about another example of fibrous proteins, elastin. Let's start with the biosynthesis of collagen. This is the journal overview of collagen formation. You can see that it is divided into many steps. The polypeptide precursor of the collagen molecule are formed in the fibroblast, which are the cells in connective tissues which produce collagen and other fibers. These precursor polypeptides are then secreted into the extracellular matrix. After enzymatic modification, the mature collagen monomers aggregate and become cross-linked to form collagen fibers. During the biosynthesis, as you can see in step 1, a three-dimensional stranded structure is assembled, with the amino acid glycine and proline as its principal component. This is not yet collagen, but its precursor, called the procollagen. In step 2, this procollagen is then modified by the addition of hydroxyl group by the hydroxylase enzyme to the amino acid proline and lysine. This step is important for later glycosylation and the formation of the triple helix structure of collagen. This hydroxylase enzyme that performs these reactions requires vitamin C as a cofactor. This is important to remember. A long-term deficiency in vitamin C results in impaired collagen synthesis and a disease called scurvy. Symptoms of scurvy are weakness, anemia, gum disease, and skin problems. These hydroxylation of selected prolines and lysines are catalyzed by two different enzymes, the prolyl 4-hydroxylase and lysyl hydroxylase. Vitamin C can also serve with them including these reactions. In this service, one molecule of vitamin C is destroyed for, or you can say utilized for each hydrogen replaced by hydroxyl group, as you can see in step 2. The synthesis of collagen occurs inside and outside of the cells, which result in fibrillary collagen, which is the most common form of collagen. Besides the fibrillary collagen, we also have other types of collagens, but all types of collagens are triple helices, and the differences lie in the makeup of the alpha peptides created in step 2. Now I will explain each step in detail. So look at the figure. So in step 1, there is transcription of messenger RNA. There are about 34 genes associated with collagen formation, each coding for a specific messenger RNA sequence. The beginning of collagen synthesis begins with the turning on genes which are associated with the formation of a particular alpha peptide, typically alpha 1, 2, or 3. Then we have step 2, in which a pre-pro peptide formation takes place. Once the final messenger RNA exits from the cell nucleus and enters into the cytoplasm, it links with the ribosomal subunits and the process of translation occurs. The early or first part of the new peptide is known as the signal sequence. The signal sequence on the N terminal of the polypeptide is recognized by a signal recognition particle on the endoplasmic reticulum, which will be responsible for directing the pre-pro peptide into the endoplasmic reticulum. Therefore, once the synthesis of new polypeptides is finished, it goes directly into the endoplasmic reticulum for post-translational processing. This is also known as pre-pro collagen. As I have mentioned earlier, this pre-pro peptide then changes to pro-collagen. Three modification of the pre-pro polypeptide occurs, leading to the formation of alpha peptide. First of all, number 1, the signal peptide on the N terminal is removed and the molecule is now known as propeptide, not procollagen. Then, number 2, hydroxylation of lysine and prolines on the propeptide by the enzyme hydroxylase occurs, which aids cross-linking to the alpha peptides. Vitamin C, as I told you earlier, acts as a cofactor here for the hydroxylase enzyme. As I've told you earlier, that vitamin C deficiency causes a disease called scurvy. In scurvy, the hydroxylation of proline and lysine doesn't occur and it causes a loose triple helix formation. Then we have step 4, where glycosylation occurs by adding either glucose or galactose monomers onto the hydroxyl group that we have placed on lysines, but not on the prolines. So you see those black dots and white boxes in step 4? They are the glucose and galactose monomers. Once these modifications have taken place, three of the hydroxylated and glycosylated propeptides twist into a triple helix forming a procollagen as you can see in step number 5. Procollagen, the blue, green and the pink lines in step 5 still have unwound ends which will be later trimmed. At this point, the procollagen is packaged into a transfer vesicle which will now go to the Golgi apparatus. In step 6, you can see that in the Golgi apparatus, the procollagen goes through one last post-translational modification before being secreted out of the cell. In this step, oligosaccharides, not the monosaccharides as you have seen in step number 3, oligosaccharides are added and then the procollagen is packaged into secretory vesicle destined for the extracellular space as you can see in step number 7. Then we have step number 8 which involves formation of tropocollagen. Once outside the cell, membrane-bound enzymes known as collagen peptidases remove the loose ends of the procollagen molecule. What is left now is known as tropocollagen. Defects in this step can cause one of the many collagen synthesis defect related diseases, which I am going to discuss later. Now the last step is the formation of collagen fibril. Lysine oxidase, an extracellular copper-dependent enzyme, produces the final step in the collagen synthesis pathway. This enzyme acts on the lysine and hydroxylysines producing an aldehyde group. This aldehyde group will eventually undergo covalent modification, covalent bonding between the tropocollagen molecules. This polymer of tropocollagen is now known as collagen fibril. Here is a brief summary of the intracellular and extracellular events involved in the formation of collagen. Defects in any one of the many steps in collagen fiber synthesis, like genetic diseases, can cause inability of collagen to form fibers properly and thus depriving tissues with the needed tensile strength normally provided by the collagen. More than 1,000 mutations have been identified in 22 genes that code for 12 of the collagen types. Defective collagen synthesis can lead to a variety of diseases. For example, the most common one is EDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and we also have osteogenesis imperfecta or brittle bone syndrome. Now we have degradation of collagen. Normal collagens are highly stable molecules having a half-life as long as several months. However, connective tissues is dynamic and is constantly being remodeled, often in response to growth or injury of the tissue. Breakdown of collagen fibril is dependent on the proteolytic action of collagenases, which are mostly metal dependents. So they belong to a large family of matrix called metalloproteinases. In case of type 1 collagen, the cleavage site is specific, generating 3/4 and 1/4 length fragments. These fragments are further degraded by other matrix proteinases to their constituent amino acid. This is what happens when we age. You see here on the right side of the slide, collagen degradation, where collagen in the skin is degraded and the wrinkles appear as we age from the age 30 to age 60. Elastin is the second example of fibrous proteins that we are going to study. In contrast to collagen, which forms fibers that are tough and have high tensile strength, elastin is a connective tissue protein which has a rubber-like properties. Elastin fibers are composed of elastin and glycoprotein microfibrils, and they are found in the lungs, the walls of large arteries, and elastic ligaments. They can be stretched to several times their normal length, but they recoil to their original shape when the stretching force is relaxed. As you can see in this figure, Elastin, when we look at its structure, there are some important properties that the structure has. Elastin is insoluble protein polymer synthesized from a precursor tropoelastin, which is a linear polypeptide composed of about 700 amino acids that are primarily small and non-polar. For example, we have glycine, alanine, and valine. Elastin is also rich in proline and lysine but contains only a little hydroxyproline and hydroxylysine molecule. Tropoelastin is secreted by the cells onto the extracellular spaces. There it interacts with specific glycoprotein microfibrils such as fibrillin, which functions as a scaffold onto which tropoelastin is deposited. Some of the lysine side chains of the tropoelastin polypeptides are oxidatively deaminated by lysine oxidase. As you can see on the top right side, a lysine residue being deaminated by the oxidase enzyme. It forms a lysine residue. Three of the allyl side chain plus one unaltered lysine side chain from the same or neighboring polypeptide form a desmosine cross link, as you can see in this figure. This produces elastane, an extensively interconnected rubbery network that can stretch and bend in any direction when stressed, giving connective tissue their elasticity. Now here we have the summary of our fibrous proteins in which we studied two examples, collagens and elastin. So in summary, we can say that collagen and elastin are fibrous proteins. Collagen molecules contain an abundance of proline, lysine and glycine, while the glycine molecule later occurring at every third position in the primary structure. Collagen also contain hydroxylated proline and lysine, and they are glycosylated. The glycosylated ones are always hydroxylysine, and each is formed by post-translational modification. Collagen molecules typically form fibrils containing long, stiff, triple-stranded helical structures in which three collagen polypeptide chains are bound around one another in a rope-like structure, forming a superhelix, or we can also call it a triple helix. While in the case of elastin, this is a connective tissue protein which has rubber-like properties in tissue such as the lungs and also in the skin as well.